So those are great points. Muhsin, just before we continue on the national side of things, when you came here in 2000, and you came here in 1999, yeah. So when you came here in 1999, if you can take your mind back, it's a long time ago, because this is important, because it's going to talk to what you just said right now. When you came here in 1999 and you first got to your training session at Kaizer Chiefs, and you had majority South African players, what do you remember what your very first impressions were when you came home that day, or after the first week? What did you say? You must have looked at them from different levels, from an attitude, fitness, understanding of football, skill level, teamwork, and so on, intensity. What did you see? And there's a reason why I'm asking you.
The biggest problem for me, that's why the most coaches, international coaches, are failing.
I'm saying when you came then, in 1999, what did you see then?
99, yeah. The most international coaches, when they come to a place like South Africa, so when you come from Germany is coaching a job. It's like a lawyer. It's like a butcher. It's like a doctor. It's like an educated. I said also the butcher now also, but an educated, licensed job. So you see that as a job. Here in South Africa, I don't see that people realize that, or these players or the surroundings. This is serious business. So it's like a company. It has to be run like a company. So when I came in the first, because of the intensity, what I wanted to see, coming from, I coached at the time Trabzonspor, at the time I came as a sportif director, one of the top sides in Turkish football, and came then to South Africa, and then wanted this, that my players think football, live football, breathe football, eat football. But I saw firstly training sessions, 2 hours, done, finished, everybody's gone. So that was the first thing that I was very surprised, because today's international football players come at 8 o'clock in the morning, they leave the premises at 8 o'clock in the evening. So that's a must. You have at least 12 to 14 hours in the week. Whereas I would say here in South Africa, I would say at least 10 to 12 hours with 2 feet on the ground. You need to be there. So that means 3 times per week, at least twice training sessions. Yeah. Then there's a lot of other elements look into the analysis, per body composition. Everybody human has a different type of a body, of muscle strength. So the winger needs to do 80 sprints in the game. The midfielder has to do much more distances in capacity. So there's a lot of elements that you also need to combine.
Was there resistance to that when you came, Muhsin? Obviously you came and you said, okay, these guys don't take this game as seriously as it should be taken. They're leaving straight after lunch, and you didn't see the intensity level that you expected from a top, because they were a top team at the time. You didn't see that, but
I need to adjust myself, because you can't compare, you can't take, there's a different culture, different environment. I coach in 3 continents. I coach in Egypt, Emirates, Turkey, Austria, in Germany, in South Africa. So everyone has an own culture, own, let me say, cultural background. It's a multicultural environment at the moment. So you can't bring one-to-one Germany to South Africa. The thinking is completely different. You can't copy that. You need to respect the cultures and the boundaries that has been in the game. So what is that? I needed to adjust to that. So because I come from a background, this is a job what we see, and then suddenly it's a bit different. Like for instance, that is always a funny story. I was sitting in the bus in the beginning. We just lost the game. After 15 minutes, everybody at the back is singing, and I'm just blowing, so my blood blows, and they're singing at the back.
Listen, I've never known you to lose your temper.
But later on, I understood, because in the end, that is the way how they dealt with the stress. It is. You need to respect that. So later on, I understood. No, it is not because they don't take it serious. In the beginning, I thought, but they don't taking it serious. They don't. Why they're singing? It's like singing, but the singing is just for them, for the boys on that time to go to release the stress, go to the next level, not forgetting it. That is the behavior of losing the stress. Good. So
and I'm glad you recognize
hours, and they already have done that. They're by far more advanced than to me, because I'm carrying that home, and these boys already have managed to get over and can concentrate for the next start of the training.
You know why, Muhsin? You know why? because then they were calm enough to go to a bar afterwards.
Yeah.
I'm joking.
Yeah, but I don't see that there is no one player in South African professional football. When you call them at 12 o'clock in the night, so you tell them training session, they won't come to the training session so long that they respect the environment and respect the coach, that they know they bring them to another level. I have never come across less players come across, I mean, never, but they are not willing to train. They're not willing to work. They're not, but this is also like a habit. You need to create that habit. That habit what Sundowns have created now at the moment. I remember many times Pizzo coming from a losing game nights at 1 o'clock and put the lights on, had a training session day. So I don't know, we can't discuss that is right or wrong, but in the end is that the seriousness of the work what he's putting in.
So I think South African fans need to know a couple of things. Number one, just talking about Pizzo, the late Joe Frickleton, who was a Scotsman who coached Highlands Park in the old white NFL. They won many leagues there. He was like the Alex Ferguson of the NFL. He then later coached Chiefs and Pirates, and he was an old school coach. But he told me, I was good friends with him. He told me, I played in the NFL, so I played against these teams, and he came to live in Cape Town. And he said to me, before Pizzo became a top coach and a well-known coach, he said to me, by the way, there's an assistant coach at Supersport that even if he's not a good coach, will succeed, because every game Joe went to, and Joe went to games 3 times a week, he saw Pizzo there. And he said anybody who watches that much football is doing it because he wants to improve. And Pizzo, Pizzo is out there not because he's got a magic that someone else doesn't have. He put the hours in. That's the first thing. The second thing, Arsene Wenger said something that's an eye-opener, and he said, people think that Thierry Henry is a gifted, born gifted footballer. He said, what people don't know is he can phone Thierry Henry at 11:30 at night, and Thierry Henry is watching a game and watching videos on how to improve. And he says, I get phone calls I get phone calls from Thierry Henry different hours of the night to say, I'm watching this video of what I did there, and I think I should have done this, and this ball should have come there. And that's the difference. That's why Thierry Henry is there. People think Lionel Messi is just born with that kind of skill. Believe me, he was born with a skill, but the hours and hours and hours and hours of time that he puts in, and South African soccer players, there are exceptions. But the bottom line, if you've got a little bit of ability, you can end up being a big star with a lot of effort. And the effort is time and time and time and time. And that, it does seem, if you look at the motor car accidents and the amount of, I get messages, one of the reasons why Soccer Laduma, when I was at Soccer Laduma, got so many stories, because so many players were out publicly doing things that they spoke to everybody and they just told everybody the stories, what's happening. And most of it was done in bars because they spent their lives there. And that's not a place for professional sportsmen at all. But so, Muhsin, did you change? How did you change? Would you say when you came to Chiefs in 1999 and when you left, would you say you changed that culture at Chiefs in that period to what you wanted? Or
I wouldn't say.
How would you say what you wanted? Okay, so let's assume when you got there, I'm just giving it. Let's assume it was a 0 out of 10 when you got there. I'm just calling it a 0 out of 10 from what you wanted. What would you said before you left? What had you got them to? What level? I mean, you did win the Mandela Cup, and you basically won everything there was to win except the league. And to a certain extent, the league was taken from you. The Olympics, and then Jabu and Patrick
twice.
Who let you down with another story twice. Which incidentally must have been a heartbreak for you, because we can talk about that, because that's, you got players who are gifted, and that's something we can talk about a little bit later. But where do you think, go back to the original question, where did you get that team to in levels of professionalism, intensity, etc. before you left? Where do you think?
Well, firstly, I needed to adjust to certain environment. It's not that the players need to adjust to me. I needed to adjust first to change them. So I need to live it in front of them. The seriousness, the way players have fine antennas everywhere in the world. You can't bullshit them. So they're fine. Players are. It doesn't matter. Some people say they don't have the brain between the ears, or whatever they're saying about us. Many also where I played. I've been also accused in Germany, or that players are not. Players are very very fine tuning and very intelligent. You can't be not intelligent when you're in the highest level of professional football. So everyone has his own intelligence for that. And this is a group of young people that has a certain demand, and you need to convince them. So for me, it was important that a club like that, who has such a history, firstly, I need to adjust that every weekend a certain performance need to be called up from the players as a unity, and as everyone who plays Chiefs wants to win the game. So you need to have at least in the season, let me say 22, 24 games that players need to call up to highest level. So 80% is not enough. That means that if you have one 80 player 80%, the other one playing 90%, you have already lost 30%. So from the cake. So you need to convince those guys. What I did then brought people like Elsa Storm in. I brought people like Adrie de Jong, South African champion of 800 meter. Some people who could challenge them or ticklish them in other elements just playing football. So what I said, 12 to 14 hours per week, and then we have the analysis, and we have the personal. And today's football is even worse for the head coach, because now you need manpower. You can't handle that alone anymore as a head coach, because every individual player wants to have that access to him, to you, and you need to explain. You don't have time for that, and during the week, so you need to have a certain top sides analysts, performance analysts, coaches. So this is why I brought Elsa Storm in. This is why I brought Adrie de Jong in. We did a lot of coordination. Remember, I brought the cassette out 2001 of speed sessions with Kaizer Chiefs. The team was extremely quick because of the training methods that we used. And
so I'm asking, I remember your team. I remember, and I used to sit with coaches from. I watched one of your games with the guy, the assistant coach at Ajax at the time, John Latham, who played high level in England, and the head coach, who was a top player in the English league and Holland, and I just can't think of his name right now. Rob, it'll come to me. And he had been coaching overseas at big.
McDonald.
Rob McDonald. Correct. And we are sitting with them watching the game, and they said, Kaizer Chiefs, coached under you, could play overseas at that time because you had at least 3-4 different styles of play to play in one particular game. And secondly, the intensity was very high. So to play against your teams, they had to coach their players completely differently to when they play. And this Ajax side was games between Chiefs and Ajax in those days had 50,000 people come to the games. It was phenomenal.
Great games.
And they had great young players. And he said he was lucky that they had young players who came through a proper system at Ajax with top youth coaches from Holland, by the way, that they could adjust when they played against you, that they could that the players could understand that they're going to have to change formations during the game to match Chiefs. And the intensity in that Chiefs side, sometimes memory is there, but it was very good. So that's what I'm asking. By the time you left, you had brought in all this expertise, which is important for the readers the viewers to know that in order to deliver, clubs got to provide the coach with proper assistance, like a business. You need a marketing manager in a business. You need et cetera, et cetera.
No coach they can see everything and manage everything today. You need proper people around.
So 10 out of 10 for Kaizer, giving you that support at the time. But again, just my question: where would you have seen your team? And there's a reason why I'm asking this question. So by the time you were sort of at the peak, winning all those trophies, maybe not just when you left, from going from a 0, 1 or 2 out of 10 on intensity and professionalism, where would you have seen them when you were playing at your best with that team? The kind of time I'm talking about. Would you have got to an 8 out of 10 to where you'd like them to be, a 9 out of 10, a 6 out of 10? Where do you say you were?
You must be careful on that question. I don't want to give an emotional question to that because it's too serious to talk about that. For me, I would say a player like Thabo Moki had unbelievable potential. I came a little bit too late for that type of session, for our training sessions. Thabo Moki was, for me, most of the players have never rated or never seen Thabo Moki as such a brilliant player. I wish I had Thabo Moki when he was 16. He would play for Manchester United. So you don't have. He was another Scholes. He was another Scholes for me. We had a certain time in the game that we it was we worked on the first ball, second ball when we won the ball back. So the first ball was not Dr. Kumar, it was Thabo Moki. Thabo, we were on the half spaces already on that time. When nobody knew what is half spaces, they would ask, "Can you eat that?" So he was already in the half spaces. He positioned himself such great in the windows, in the channels, in the half spaces, so that our first balls look to these games, and you will see that first ball to Thabo. And then we set up Nomveto, we set up Jabu, we set up Doctor. That combination, Doctor and Thabo Moki, was marvelous. These two, you won't lose the ball. These two. So now we could come at least another 10 meters forward. So and stay that, and then we did the what they call it today, that winning the ball quickly after losing the ball back in certain seconds. We did that already on the time, that pressing organization. But you need to set up for that. You need to have that setup. So I would say there is of course a missing part of it that in the youth education time we are missing. So I try to combine then the team with some youngsters, with some very experienced players, and I think we get the combination right, and introduced one by one, not every time at one time, players that can bring us to another level. We brought then Stanton Fredericks in. We got later on Atazwane. We brought all young players that have all by their own individual percentage to the way of ability to bring it into the team as a unity. So I would say we were more than 8. We had a fantastic team on the wings. We had a good. My biggest problem was
fullbacks were flying forward. Fullbacks, Marco and Zwane. Zama flying forward.
Later on, obviously, it's not Zama. Later on, Atazwane, the combination of Atazwane and Zama was for me. Later on, I put Zama in the middle as a centre back, together with Patrick Mubedi. We brought We brought Marco Mutembi later. Nomveto went to Europe. Unfortunately, we lost him with 21 goals, and in the first season he came straight to Italy out. And obviously, we could never replace Siyabonga Nomveto on that time. So I had also my own challenges in the team, that you don't find players like that anymore. And when I came, he was there, but he didn't ever play. He was too quick for his muscle strength was too quick, so he was always getting injured. Elsa and Adri took him sometimes as a handbag afternoon, as her handbag to the gym. So I called him handbag all the time. So it is that percentage that you can give someone when you have the training session, and this person is expert on this field, and build the player to a certain level up. And then obviously these girls had also, with Farouk Khan came in, knows the youth players, and could say to me, coach, here a bit easy, there a bit more. So which also made me then a complete trainer, coach more. And because today you can't say, you can't put the finger up and I'm doing this, and there's not I. It's always today, it's very much important that you understand that this is why Turkey brought me back to my home country, to the national team. Şenol Güneş was forcing to get me back to the national team, to give my expertise to that part. So what I would say is that, unfortunately, we had the fluctuation in the team as well. We got Gary Goldstone in, a youngster as a centre-back, fantastic boy that brought a lot of... From Norway. So, but we trained him. He was there. We built him. This is what the mistake is happening now by Chiefs. I see the marketing is more active than you can compare to covers. Do you see any by Sundowns, any marketing group talking about football, talking about the marketing group are the coaches?
Yeah. Muhsin, so I'm gonna answer your question, my question to you for you. I can tell you right now, and maybe you're too modest to say it, but the difference at Kaizer Chiefs team from when you came towards the end of your time was immense, because the proof of the pudding is 30,000 people used to come to games, 40,000 people used to come to the big games.
We had an average 28, if I'm not mistaken.
I was just going to say a small crowd was 15 to 20,000. Today, a small crowd is 1,200. 2,000, sometimes 100,000.
Peter,
40,000.
sorry to interrupt you there. We had in the marketing, when we're talking, gets in my mind. We had in the marketing Amy Casaletti page. You know Amy Casaletti.
Yeah,
So the first meeting that I had with Amy is Amy told me, this is still in my ears. Amy told me, one of the best marketing person that I ever come across worldwide. I've coached so many teams and been so many federations. She told me, our marketing level is here, coach, and the team is here. So please, what you need to do, bring the team at least halfway up so that I can market the team and I get sponsorship and I get. So you need to provide us a certain type of football, not only winning, also a certain type of quality football, so that I can market the team. So now you're the face, and I remember that, and so we had such a bond in working. So it was not only me; it was also. We had always with Mr. Mutau, who was the president, I call him president, a race who's been first in the training fields in the morning in the offices. So it was such a great environment, and that feeling we had that everyone is valuable. So that made us to be doing that extra work.
So, Muhsin, what you're really saying, first of all, I don't want to make it sound that this podcast is about the marketing.
No, of course not.
And I'm sure they're doing some very good things as well. But on a separate note, what you're really saying, that Arthur Zwane has I don't want to say no chance, but he's got a very, very difficult job in front of him. Number one is, again, this podcast is not about Kaizer Chiefs. We're going to go back, but we're using Chiefs as maybe possibly a metaphor for the entire South African football, and you were at Chiefs. But because he doesn't have a Dr. Kumalu, a Thabo Muki in his team to build it around, and there are too many youngsters probably coming into the team in one go without the proper experience of education, that he's got a really difficult job to try and get this team to compete with the likes of Sundowns. And it's not his fault, although he was from the development. It's not really his fault that the team has dropped so much so quickly. But I want to use that as a metaphor more for what's happened to South African football, because obviously the better Chiefs, Pirates and Sundowns are doing, the better it is for South African football.
That's the point. They are the locomotive of the South African football. So Chiefs needs to be Chiefs that we know. Chiefs needs to be challenging for every year. So that makes Sundowns also be in the talks. Sundowns is running all over the show, running away from. So that means when Pirates is involved, Chiefs is involved. SuperSport is involved, so that means that the quality of the league it will come higher up. So that means every weekend you have much more level of intensity and a different type of football. As now Sundowns running all over the show. So and therefore it's not just by fluke that they're running all over, running away from league. So Chiefs needs to be there, Pirates needs to be there. That's what is my.
Do you think the Sundowns team of today could compete with the Sundowns team that used to play against you in 1999, 2000, 2001?
Good question. The level we had Sundowns team at the moment, the type of football has changed. The understanding of.
But you can look at those two teams, in my opinion, and you could say they're both damn good teams. The Sundowns team, like Fatembu and
it was marvelous to play again. Very different.
They were fantastic players. But Charles McCloy, Fire on the wing, they were superb. They were a superb team. But today's team, and you look at their achievements in the Champions League. When I say today's team, I'm talking about the last 4 or 5 years of Sundowns, or 3-4 years of Sundowns. You could argue that the current team is as good or close to being as good as that team in those days, as the Sundowns team from 1999, 2000, so on and so forth. But you can't have that argument for Pirates because Pirates are, what are they, 6th, 7th on the log. They're inconsistent. Chiefs are inconsistent. So at least Sundowns are doing something right. You could say it's just money, but it's not just money because...
No.
If it's just money, then Pirates and Chiefs would be coming 2nd and 3rd because they've got them more money than anybody else. And Richards Bay, who don't have money, are 2nd. So it's not...
So they're doing something right. They're doing something right. Yeah. No, I would say in South African football is that right back into beginning again. that SAFA needs to understand the club philosophy, the club development, the club, and this will help as well SAFA. So that has to be an ongoing process together. This is very much important, especially for the youth development structures. 2002, Germany came up from the federation that every academy has to have every club, professional club, has to have an academy, and they were subventioned from the federation into that level. So it goes in hand. It can't be Premier League alone and SAFA alone. SAFA alone is nowhere. At least the Premier League can market themselves in a certain way. But SAFA needs to understand what club development is, and the sportive directors and the people in a technical part need to work hand in hand with the PSL. Otherwise, there's a division in there, and that's what is happening.
But right now there is a division, and unity is strength. And I think we, as the owners of football in South Africa, are the people. The fans own the football, and the fans deserve better than what we're getting. And the powers that be, which are SAFA and the PSL, they're not owned by anybody. They're there as a representative of what the fans expect. And certainly what the fans expect is not what they're getting. And therefore SAFA and the PSL have to take responsibility for that. We need to see a plan coming from SAFA and the PSL, a joint plan, as you correctly say, where they commit to the growth of youth football in South Africa, and there needs to become a unifying plan, as you said, that we have structures in youth football that is a prototype. It's a model that all the clubs follow, and it's supported by SAFA. And then SAFA have got to get the right personnel involved. The clubs have got to get the right personnel involved, that the teachers, let's call them that, are of the highest quality. And in order for that to happen, we have to learn from the overseas countries, because they're doing it right. Even Morocco's done it better than us, but Morocco, obviously, players are born overseas, so we don't have players born overseas. We need to take the lessons from whether it's Argentina or Brazil or Spain or England or Germany, but we need, or Croatia, by the way, which is a very good example of it, and Portugal are producing fantastic players. And I want to come to Croatia very quickly.
But Peter, Croatia is by 4 million
but
people.
Just before that, Muhsin, I want to say this, and this was not the aim of this podcast, but we've got somebody in this country like yourself who's a South African and a European, if you want to call it that, and who loves football and understands our environment. We need to somehow get you involved in drawing up this plan. I'm not your agent. I'm not trying to make this happen.
There was Farouk Khan. There are people. Farouk is also a great is working with this academy.
And I'll tell you what, Muhsin, they can't say there's no money, because I tell you what, I'd get the money. It's damn easy to get sponsorship money for these type of things. It's just business will support something that's going to be effective and that they can get a return on it. So that's not difficult to do. But we've been talking a long time. I want to summarize, and I want to ask you one question, and it was about Croatia. I just want to summarize. So it's very clear. The answers are there. We don't have to try and work them out. One, you need players that have played in world tournaments regularly, so that by the time they get into world tournaments that count, like a World Cup qualifying and the World Cup itself, they understand the requirements. The second thing is we need to get SAFA and the PSL working together to this plan to take our youth football to be able to produce those kind of players who will allow us to qualify for these tournaments and do well in these tournaments. The third thing is just the fact. And if this fact doesn't wake us up, and I didn't know this, is that we're at the bottom of the pile when it comes to producing players in world football according to FIFA. That's a disgrace, and we need to get ourselves out of that disgrace.
This is all there. It's all in the internet. You can look to the CSI reports 2020 just before that shows you where you're standing, and this is a disaster.
And the other proof of the pudding is we look at the quality of players we created in the 2002 and the 1990 World Cup, the 96 African Cup of Nations team. They're all those squads were filled with players who played in the top leagues. If you look at the difference in Kaizer Chiefs, just using them as a metaphor, because you coach there today compared to your time there, the standards have dropped incredibly. So we've got to rectify that. And that's on that note, I want to ask you about Croatia. How does a country with 5 million people, Is there about 5 million people? If you look at it, 5 million people, half of them must be adults. So you're looking at 2.5 million potential sportsmen. Half of them must be females. So you're looking at under 1 million people who can play football. And if you look at an age group of people, I mean, they've got to maybe have 20, 30, 40,000 potential soccer players. In the Western Cape, there are 100,000. In the Western Cape, there's 100,000 registered soccer players on the sun. So the Western Cape has got to be 5 times bigger than Croatia in terms of people playing football. How does that country get into two World Cup semi-finals, and one of them was a final? How do they produce a Modric and not us?
Education. I was the sportive director of Trabzonspor, so we had Davor Vugrinic. Davor was on the time under 21 national player. We paid a fortune for him. Davor Vugrinic, from Croatia. He played for Vartex Varaždin. So I saw him in the under 20 international games, and we lost just Shota Arveladze to Ajax Amsterdam, and we wanted to have a similar player like him, a similar physique, similar way of. So I found him in Davor. Davor became later on, played in Italy long years, also played in Spain, one of the top sides played with Davor Šuker. So I lived 4 weeks in Varaždin. Went there, watched the game, watched training session, watched actually structures. And so we took him away from Sevilla. We paid crazy money for him and got him. And he was then, if I'm not mistaken, second on the, he was 19 years, 20 years old, Trabzonspor, second on the goal. He scored 21 goals in that season and went to Italy for $8 million. So what I want to say is that in that time I went to Croatia and looked into that on that time, and you couldn't believe how educated the coaches were, how much emphasis they're putting in their own use, how much dedicated were they in the youth section. I didn't want even watch Vartex Varaždin in the league games. I went down to the youth section and watched the under teams. How much quality is in there in terms of intensity, in terms of tactical ability, in terms of this is such a far advanced team in under 11, under 12, under 13. So they're doing so many things right in the matter of what Arsene Wenger was saying about the last World Cup is that between 16 and 19 is a huge percentage of players leaving football. In that part of the world, there probably nobody was leaving the football. One here and there, they will be maybe leaving, but they will play professional first division, they will play second division, they play plus first division. At least those players are not getting lost. So there is a late development possibilities. They also understand that. And it is a football nation built on growth and school. And obviously, school is the education and growth to helping those individuals with the right education. So that is this infrastructure that we're talking about. And you can have
what
that.
you're saying is that their country, whether it's their politicians or their officials in football, understand the value and importance of football in uniting a country and the power that a successful national team does for a country. Croatia coming into semi-finals and finals of World Cups bonds that company, makes people feel better. The rest of the world recognize that country. They think maybe we should go on holiday there. These people are fighting spirit kind of people. There's a respect given to them. Exactly what's happened to Brazil over the years or Argentina. We don't have that, and we had it and we've lost it. Just hosting the World Cup was proved to a certain extent how powerful football is. We've got such a powerful asset in this country in football, and we've got the potential to become a proper nation in football in 10 years' time, 15 years' time. But if we don't start now, it's never going to happen. And I want to tell all the viewers out there, please, this has been an incredible session. I've loved it. Send us your comments. First of all, like and subscribe because it helps, obviously. It's like fans cheering. So like and subscribe, but fill in your comments because we need to do this again. I want to know what questions you want to be asked, what questions directly you want to ask Muhsin. I didn't even get time to ask the questions from the Twitter that you guys you asked, but that'll be next time. But based on this discussion, what else do you want to ask Muhsin? We'll get him in again. because we've got to go deeper in these solutions. And to the South African football authorities, SAFA, PSL, you've heard this. It's damning that we're at such a low level. Muhsin used the word naive. We've got to, I think naive is too gentle a word, Muhsin. We're kidding ourselves. This podcast and the This Is Football site, the logo slogan is saying it like it is. And you've said it like it is. The lights are going out in our football. We're still close to that switch. We can switch it back on. It'll start with it'll be dim, but it can get lighter and brighter if we commit ourselves to that commitment. We must stop fooling ourselves in South African football. Doing a few tricks, and I love those tricks as a matter of interest. I'm South African. We all enjoy a trick because it shows that we're enjoying ourselves. But there's a time and a place, and you can't do that unless you've got the basics right. That's the icing on the cake. We're doing it when we don't, when there's no light. You can do that when the light's shining bright. And guys, please send us your comments and your questions. We'll get Muhsin here again and answer your questions directly. I loved it, Muhsin. It's always a pleasure. Can't wait to see you again socially. How long are you in the country still for?
Until end of February, probably. Until end of February, and then I have to go back to Europe.
Well, I'm grateful for this time.
I'm based in South Africa, so you know.
And thank you on behalf of everybody, and we chat again soon.
Thank you. Thanks very much.
We hope you enjoyed our first Saying It Like It Is episode. Don't forget to like and subscribe and let us know what you want to see next. Thanks, guys. Much appreciated.